Captain Han Wu stood on the bridge of his ship and looked out at the stars. The Determination was a good ship, not the biggest or fastest, but it got the job done. Han Wu had been flying through space for 15 years now, and he still loved the sight of distant suns. "Captain, we're getting close to New Busan," said Dr. Park Nari from her station. She was the ship's science officer and Han Wu's oldest friend. They had gone to the academy together back on Earth. "Good. The colonists there will be happy to see fresh supplies," Han Wu replied. He walked over to look at the navigation screen. New Busan was one of the newer human colonies, built only 20 years ago. 3 million people lived there now, mostly farmers and miners. Engineer Choi Bin looked up from his console. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange. There's a distress signal coming from the colony." Han Wu felt his stomach drop. Distress signals were never good news. "Put it through the speakers." The bridge filled with static and broken voices. "Help us." They came from nowhere. "Burning everything." "Please, someone help." Then silence. "How old is that signal?" Han Wu asked. Choi Bin checked his instruments. 3 days, Captain. It took 3 days to reach us. Set course for New Busan, maximum speed. The Determination raced through space toward the colony. Han Wu tried not to think about what they might find. Pirates sometimes attacked the outer colonies, but they usually just took supplies and left. They didn't send distress signals like that. Dr. Park Nari worked at her station, trying to scan the colony from a distance. "Captain, I'm not picking up any life signs." "What do you mean?" "I mean, there's nothing alive down there. No people, no animals, nothing." Han Wu felt cold. 3 million people couldn't just disappear. "Are you sure your equipment is working?" "I've checked it twice." "The colony is dead, Captain." When they reached New Busan, the sight was worse than anything Han Wu had imagined. The cities were still standing, but they were empty. Ships sat in the spaceport like abandoned toys. Gardens grew wild with no one to tend them. "Take us down to the main city," Han Wu ordered. They landed in the central square. Han Wu, Dr. Park Nari, and 2 security officers put on their suits and went outside. The city was perfectly preserved, like everyone had just vanished. "Over here," called one of the security officers. He was standing near a building that looked like a school. When they got closer, they found the bodies. Hundreds of them, all human, all dead, but these people hadn't died quickly. Dr. Park Nari knelt down to examine them with her scanner. "Captain, this is horrible," she said, her voice shaking. "These people were poisoned. Some kind of biological weapon. It would have taken days for them to die, and it would have been very painful." "Who would do this?" Dr. Park Nari pointed to a symbol carved into the wall above the bodies. It looked like a twisted star with sharp edges. "I know this symbol. It belongs to the Keth Dominion." Han Wu knew about the Keth. They were one of the oldest and most powerful alien races in the galaxy. They were part of the Hegemony Alliance, the group that ruled most of known space. Humans had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago, and they were considered the newest and weakest members. Why would the Keth attack a human colony? "I don't know, Captain. But we need to report this to Admiral Kim Tae right away." They spent 2 more days on New Busan, documenting everything they found. It was the same everywhere they looked. Men, women, children, all dead from the same horrible poison. Dr. Park Nari found evidence that some people had been taken alive and used for experiments before they died. The worst part was the children's area of the city. The Keth had done terrible things there, things that made even the hardened security officers sick to their stomachs. When they returned to Earth, Han Wu went straight to Admiral Kim Tae's office. The Admiral was a tough man who had fought in the border wars with pirates, but even he looked shocked when he heard the report. 3 million people, Admiral Kim Tae said quietly. "All dead, yes, sir. And the Keth left their mark on purpose. They wanted us to know they did it." Admiral Kim Tae stood up and walked to his window. He could see Earth's blue oceans and white clouds below. "I'll take this to the Hegemony Council immediately. This is an act of war." 3 weeks later, Admiral Kim Tae returned from the Hegemony Council meeting. Han Wu and Dr. Park Nari were waiting in his office to hear the news. "What did they say?" Dr. Park Nari asked. Admiral Kim Tae's face was red with anger. "They said it was a misunderstanding. According to the Council, New Busan was built on sacred Keth burial grounds. They say the colonists were warned to leave and refused." "That's a lie," Han Wu said. "We never received any warnings. And even if we had, you don't murder 3 million people over a land dispute. The Council doesn't see it that way. They say the Keth response was proportionate under hegemony law. Dr. Parknari couldn't believe what she was hearing. Proportionate? They used biological weapons on children. The council representative called it necessary force to remove trespassers. When I demanded justice, they told me that humans should be grateful the Keth showed such restraint. Han Wu felt something cold and hard settling in his chest. What about our other colonies? Are they safe? Admiral Kim Tae shook his head. The council has declared 12 more human colonies to be on disputed territory. They've given us 30 days to evacuate them. And if we refuse? Then the Keth will remove the trespassers again. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Outside the window, Earth looked peaceful and beautiful. Han Wu thought about all the humans living on those distant colonies, farming their land, raising their children, believing they were safe under hegemony protection. So that's it? Dr. Parknari asked. 3 million people are dead and we're supposed to just accept it? The council has spoken, Admiral Kim Tae said. Humanity is the newest member of the hegemony. We have no power to challenge their decisions. Han Wu looked at his old friend and mentor. Admiral, what are you going to do? Admiral Kim Tae was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I'm going to follow orders. We'll evacuate the colonies. We'll file protests that will be ignored. We'll do what weak species do in this galaxy. And the people who died on New Busan? They'll be forgotten. Just like the council wants. Han Wu left the Admiral's office feeling hollow inside. He walked through the corridors of Earth's military headquarters, passing soldiers and officers who didn't yet know what had happened. Soon they would learn that their species could be murdered by the thousands and the galaxy would call it justice. That night, Han Wu sat in his apartment and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Keth were probably celebrating their easy victory. Somewhere out there, other alien species were learning that humans could be killed without consequence. Dr. Parknari called him on his communicator. Han Wu, are you all right? No, he said honestly. I don't think any of us will be all right after this. What happens now? Han Wu thought about the empty cities of New Busan, about the children who had died in pain, about the aliens who thought humans were too weak to matter. I don't know, he said. But something has to change. 3 months after New Busan died, the news came that New Daegu was gone too. Another 3 million humans dead from the same poison. The Keth had struck again, and again they left their twisted star symbol for everyone to see. Captain Han Wu sat in the briefing room with the other ship commanders, listening to Admiral Kim Tae read the report. The Admiral's voice was steady, but Han Wu could see the rage burning in his eyes. The Hegemony Council says this was also a misunderstanding, Admiral Kim Tae said. Apparently, New Daegu was built too close to a Keth meditation site. Commander Yoon Jae, captain of the stealth ship Silent Thunder, slammed his fist on the table. How convenient. Every human colony seems to be built on sacred ground. The Council agrees, Admiral Kim Tae continued. They've decided that humans are clearly too primitive to understand galactic law. They're assigning Keth overseers to approve all future human settlements. Dr. Parknari, who had been studying the attack patterns, looked up from her datapad. Admiral, I've analyzed both attacks. The Keth aren't making mistakes. They're testing us. What do you mean? They're seeing how much they can get away with. Each attack is more brutal than the last. On New Daegu, they didn't just use poison. They used experimental weapons that kept people alive longer so they would suffer more. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what Dr. Parknari was really saying. The Keth were enjoying this. 2 weeks later, New Incheon went dark. This time the Keth had used sonic weapons that drove people insane before killing them. The colonists had torn apart their own city in their madness. When rescue ships arrived, they found walls covered in claw marks where people had tried to escape their own minds. Admiral Kim Tae demanded another meeting with the Hegemony Council. Han Wu went with him, along with Dr. Parknari and General Lee Su, who commanded the human ground forces. The council met in a massive space station above the alien homeworld of Nexus Prime. The chamber was huge, with representatives from 12 different species sitting in judgment over the galaxy. The humans had only one small section, barely visible among the ancient alien powers. The council leader was a creature that looked like a giant insect with golden wings. It spoke in a voice that sounded like breaking glass. Admiral Kim Tae of the human species, you have requested this emergency session. Speak. Admiral Kim Tae stood up straight. Honored Council, 3 human colonies have been destroyed. 9 million of my people are dead. I demand justice. The insect creature made a sound that might have been laughter. You demand? Humans demand nothing in this chamber. You are here by our grace alone. A representative from the Keth Dominion rose to speak. The Keth looked like tall, thin humans, but with skin like black metal and eyes that glowed red. The humans continue to trespass on sacred territory despite our warnings. Their primitive minds cannot grasp the complexity of galactic law. We received no warnings, General Li Su said. Ignorance is not an excuse, the Keth replied. Your species has proven itself incapable of peaceful coexistence. Perhaps it would be better if you returned to your single world and stayed there. Dr. Park Nari stepped forward with her datapad. Honored Council, I have evidence that these attacks were planned and deliberate. The Keth are not defending sacred sites. They are committing genocide. The chamber erupted in alien sounds that Han Wu realized were laughter. The council leader raised one wing for silence. Dr. Park Nari of the human species, it said. You accuse one of our founding members of genocide? Based on what authority? Based on the evidence. The biological weapons used were designed to cause maximum suffering. The attack patterns show careful planning. This isn't defense, it's extermination, the Keth representative hissed. The humans grow bold in their accusations. Perhaps they need a stronger lesson in respect. What did you say? Admiral Kim Tae stepped toward the Keth. I said your species needs to learn its place. You are the newest and weakest members of this alliance. You exist because we allow it. General Li Su put his hand on his weapon, but Admiral Kim Tae held up a hand to stop him. The Admiral looked around the chamber at all the alien faces, watching them with amusement or contempt. I see, Admiral Kim Tae said quietly. This isn't about sacred sites or misunderstandings. You want us gone? The council leader's wings buzzed with pleasure. The human shows wisdom at last. Your species grows too quickly. Your technology advances too fast. Your population spreads too far. This disturbs the natural order we have maintained for 10,000 years. So you decided to murder us. We decided to contain you. If you cannot accept your proper place in the galaxy, then perhaps you do not belong in the galaxy at all. Han Wu felt something break inside his chest. These aliens had been planning this all along. The hegemony hadn't been protecting humanity. They had been studying them, waiting for the right moment to destroy them. I understand, Admiral Kim Tae said. His voice was calm, but Han Wu could see his hands shaking. Thank you for making your position clear. The council leader seemed pleased. Good, we are prepared to be merciful. Humanity will surrender all colonies outside your home system. In return, we will allow your species to continue existing on Earth under proper supervision. And if we refuse, then the Keth will continue their work until your species learns compliance. Admiral Kim Tae looked at Han Wu, then at Dr. Park Nari and General Li Su. Han Wu saw his own rage reflected in their faces. 9 million humans dead, and the aliens thought it was funny. We need time to consider your generous offer, Admiral Kim Tae said. You have 7 days. Choose wisely. They left the council chamber in silence. The journey back to Earth took 3 days, and nobody spoke much during the trip. Han Wu spent most of his time staring out at the stars, thinking about New Busan and New Daegu and New Incheon. On the last day of the journey, Dr. Lim Young joined them in the ship's conference room. She was a physicist who worked on classified projects for the human military. Her face was pale and her hands were shaking. Admiral, I need to tell you something, she said. For the past year, we've been working on a secret project. We call it Protocol Zero. What kind of project? Dr. Lim Young took a deep breath. We've been developing weapons. Weapons that could level the playing field against species that have had millions of years to perfect their technology. General Li Su leaned forward. What kind of weapons? The kind that could make the aliens regret ever hearing of humanity. Admiral Kim Tae was quiet for a long moment. Are they ready? Some of them. Others need more time. But Admiral, if we use these weapons, there's no going back. The galaxy will never see us the same way again. Doctor, the galaxy already sees us as insects to be stepped on. What do we have to lose? Dr. Lim Young nodded slowly. Then I'll begin preparations immediately. When they reached Earth, Admiral Kim Tae called a meeting of the Human Colonial Defense Council. Representatives from every human world attended by video link. The Admiral told them about the Council's ultimatum and the true reason for the attacks. The reaction was immediate and loud. Colonists who had spent their lives building new worlds were not going to give them up without a fight. Military officers who had sworn to protect human citizens were not going to abandon 9 million dead. "What are our options?" asked the representative from New Seoul, one of the largest colonies. Admiral Kim Tae looked around the room at all the faces on the screens. Some were afraid, some were angry, but all of them were determined. "We have one option," he said. "We fight. Against the entire Hegemony Alliance?" "Admiral, they have thousands of ships, billions of soldiers. We're one species with 43 worlds." "Yes, we're one species, but we're a species that doesn't give up." The vote was unanimous. Humanity would not surrender. 2 days later, the Hegemony fleet arrived at New Seoul to begin the forced evacuation. They expected to find frightened colonists loading their possessions onto transport ships. Instead, they found General Lee Soo and 50,000 human soldiers waiting for them. The battle was brutal and short. Human weapons were newer but weaker. Human ships were fast but fragile. The aliens had fought wars for millions of years, and they knew how to win. But the humans fought like they had nothing to lose, because they didn't. When the alien ships landed, human soldiers charged them with explosives strapped to their bodies. When the alien troops advanced, humans collapsed buildings on top of them. In the end, New Seoul burned just like the other colonies. But this time, the aliens burned with it. As the Hegemony fleet pulled back to treat their wounded, Admiral Kim Tae sent a message to every human ship in the galaxy. "All vessels, return to Earth immediately. Protocol Zero is now active. We are at war." The aliens had wanted to teach humanity a lesson about their place in the galaxy. They were about to learn one themselves. Earth had never seen anything like it. Every shipyard worked day and night. Every factory had been converted to make weapons. The blue skies were filled with the smoke of 1,000,000 forges, all working toward one goal, making the galaxy pay for what it had done to humanity. Captain Han Woo stood in the command center of the new ship construction facility. Through the windows, he could see dozens of vessels taking shape. These weren't like the old human ships. These were built for one purpose only: war. "The first batch of ghost ships will be ready in 2 weeks," reported Captain O'Dell, who had been chosen to lead the new stealth fleet. They're completely invisible to alien sensors and armed with the new quantum weapons. Dr. Lim Young looked up from her workstation. She had dark circles under her eyes from months of sleepless nights, but her voice was excited. "The quantum disruptor torpedoes are ready for testing. They can pass through any shield and tear apart anything they hit at the molecular level." "What about the PSI weapons?" asked Major Kang Min, the new commander of the Enhanced Marine Corps. Dr. Bei Sun, the psychologist who had joined the weapons program, smiled grimly. "Those are my favorite. We've recorded the death screams and final thoughts of everyone who died on New Busan, New Daegu, and New Incheon. When we broadcast those directly into alien minds, they'll experience every moment of suffering our people went through." Han Woo nodded. 6 months ago, he might have been horrified by weapons designed to drive enemies insane with grief and pain. Now he just wanted to know if they would work. "Any word from Admiral Kim Tae?" he asked. "He's in the deep labs with Dr. Lim Young's team," Captain O'Dell replied. "They're working on something called stellar manipulation technology. Apparently, they figured out how to make stars do what we want." The idea sent chills down Han Woo's spine. If humans could control stars themselves, no alien world would be safe anywhere in the galaxy. 3 weeks later, the first human counterattack began. Commander Yoon Jae took his ship Silent Thunder, now equipped with experimental cloaking technology and quantum weapons, to the Keth military base at Mordak Station. The base was huge, protected by energy shields that could stop any known weapon, and defended by a fleet of Keth warships. The aliens considered it impregnable. Commander Yoon Jae proved them wrong. The Silent Thunder appeared without warning in the middle of the base. The Keth sensors never detected it, their shields never activated, their weapons never fired. One moment the base was there, the next moment it was a cloud of expanding atoms. Before the Keth ships could react, Commander Yoon Jae activated the PSI weapons. Every Keth in the system suddenly heard the dying screams of the children from New Busan. They heard the thoughts of mothers watching their babies die in agony. They felt the despair of fathers who couldn't protect their families. The Keth ships began firing randomly, some at empty space, some at each other. Several ships rammed into asteroids as their crews went mad with shared human pain. Others just shut down as their crews curled up in their quarters, overwhelmed by the psychic assault. Commander Yoon Jae broadcast a message across all Keith communication channels before vanishing again. "This is for New Busan. We have 42 more colonies to avenge." The message reached the Hegemony Council within hours. For the first time in 10,000 years, the ancient aliens felt something they had almost forgotten: fear. The Keth demanded immediate military support. "The humans have new weapons," their representative told the council. "Weapons that can bypass our defenses." "Impossible," said the council leader. "Your technology is millions of years advanced beyond theirs." Then explain how they destroyed Mordak Station in seconds and drove our crews insane. The council leader's wings buzzed with annoyance. One lucky attack does not make them dangerous. Send more ships. Crush them, but the attacks didn't stop. Human ships began appearing throughout Keth space like deadly ghosts. Supply convoys vanished without trace. Military outposts were found empty, their crews either dead or driven mad. Sometimes the humans left messages, always the same: the names of the murdered colonies. The worst attack came a month later, when Captain Han Wu led a raid on the Keth homeworld itself. His new ship Vengeance was a massive dreadnought, bristling with weapons that shouldn't have existed. The Keth homeworld was protected by orbital fortresses and a fleet of 1,000 warships. It had never been successfully attacked in 5 million years of Keth history. Captain Han Wu changed that. Using the new stellar manipulation technology, the human fleet caused the system's star to emit deadly radiation pulses. The Keth ships were designed to handle normal solar activity, but this was something else entirely. Hulls began to melt. Electronics fried. Life support systems failed, but Han Wu wasn't trying to destroy the Keth fleet. He was sending a message. "People of Keth," he broadcast to the dying world below. "You murdered our children. You laughed at our pain. You thought we were too weak to matter. Now your sun itself burns with our anger. Evacuate your world or die with it." Billions of Keth fled their homeworld as radiation levels made it uninhabitable. They became refugees in their own empire, dependent on other alien species for food and shelter. The proud Keth dominion, which had existed for 5 million years, was reduced to begging for help. The other alien species began to panic. If humans could make stars themselves into weapons, nowhere was safe. The Hegemony Council called emergency sessions, but they couldn't agree on what to do. Some wanted to negotiate. "Perhaps we were hasty in our judgment of the humans," said the representative from the Ashanti Empire. "Maybe we should seek peace." Others wanted total war. "Destroy Earth before they become even more dangerous," demanded the Vorthak Confederacy. "Use our entire fleet if necessary." But the humans weren't waiting for alien decisions. Major Kang Min led a raid on the Vorthak capital world, using the new gravity manipulation weapons. Human Marines landed on the planet's surface and activated devices that made gravity fluctuate wildly. Entire cities were crushed under their own weight, then flung into the sky, then crushed again. "Surrender now or we'll turn your planet inside out," Major Kang Min broadcast to the Vorthak government. The Vorthak Confederacy surrendered within hours. They offered tribute, territory, anything the humans wanted. But humanity didn't want surrender. They wanted the galaxy to understand the price of murdering human children. Dr. Choi Ray's memory plague was released into the Ashanti Empire's hive mind network. The crystalline aliens, who shared all thoughts and memories, suddenly found themselves experiencing every moment of human suffering they had enabled. Every death on New Busan, every scream from New Daegu, every moment of madness from New Incheon flowed through their collective consciousness. The Ashanti Empire shattered into a million pieces as individual crystals broke away from the hive mind rather than endure the human memories. Their great cities fell silent as their people hid in caves, afraid to link their minds together again. Fleet Admiral Song Mi, who had been promoted to Supreme Commander of all human forces, addressed the galaxy from her flagship above Earth. "You watched our children burn. You called us weak. You thought genocide was justice. Now you know the truth about humanity. We are not weak. We are not helpless. And we never forget." The human war fleet spread out across the galaxy like a plague of vengeance. Captain O'Dowd's ghost fleet hunted down every council member who had voted to dismiss the human massacres. These aliens died slowly, experiencing every form of torture their victims had endured, amplified by human technology designed to maximize suffering. The ancient trade routes that had connected the galaxy for millions of years collapsed as human forces made space travel impossible for hegemony ships. Entire star systems were cut off from the rest of civilization. Some alien worlds began to starve as supply ships stopped coming. The humans had learned stellar engineering from the species that had taught them too much. They redirected entire nebulae to spell out the names of the murdered colonies in letters of fire visible across half the galaxy. Any ship entering human space would see those burning names and remember what happened to species that tried to destroy humanity. Dr. Park Nari, now elderly, but still serving as chief scientist for the war effort, watched the progress reports with mixed feelings. "We're winning," she told Han-Wu during one of their private conversations. "Are we?" Han-Wu asked. He looked tired, older than his years. "Sometimes I look at what we've become and wonder if we're still human. The aliens took that choice away from us when they murdered our children. I know. But sometimes I think about the person I was before New Busan. That person believed in peace, in negotiation, in finding common ground. Now I dream about alien worlds burning." Dr. Parknari nodded. "We all do. But maybe that's the price of survival. Maybe sometimes good people have to become monsters to protect the innocent." Han-Wu looked out at the stars, where human ships carried death to alien worlds. "The galaxy will never trust us again. Good, trust requires equals. Fear just requires strength." The war was not over yet, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The Hegemony Alliance, which had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, was crumbling under humanity's assault. Ancient alien civilizations that had existed for millions of years were fleeing to distant galaxies or hiding in remote star systems. And in the deep labs, the war had been going on for 3 years now, and the galaxy was breaking apart. What had once been the mighty Hegemony Alliance was now a collection of terrified refugee fleets running from human warships that appeared like nightmares from the dark between stars. Fleet Admiral Song Mai stood in the command center of her flagship Retribution, watching the tactical display that showed the current state of the galaxy. Red zones marked areas under human control. Blue zones showed alien holdouts. The red was spreading like spilled blood across the star map. "Report," she ordered. Colonel Park Jin, leader of the human special forces, stepped forward. "The Nordak Empire has collapsed completely. Their homeworld is uninhabitable after we made their moon crash into it. The survivors are scattered across 50 systems, begging other species for shelter." "What about the Zentari Republic?" "They've offered complete surrender and tribute. They want to become a client state under human protection." Fleet Admiral Song Mi shook her head. "We don't want clients. We want them gone." Captain O'Dowell's voice came through the communication system from his Ghost Fleet position. "Admiral, we've completed the hunt for the remaining council members. The last one tried to hide in the Vega cluster. We found him anyway." "How did he die?" "Slowly. We made sure he experienced every death from New Busan individually. It took 6 days." Dr. Choi Ray looked up from her workstation where she was monitoring the psychological warfare campaigns. "The memory plague has spread to 17 more species. The ones that share hive minds are suffering the worst. They can't stop experiencing our pain." Fleet Admiral Song Mi nodded with satisfaction. The memory plague was one of their most effective weapons. Any species that shared thoughts or emotions found themselves overwhelmed by the recorded suffering of every human who had died in the alien attacks. Most of them went insane within days. "What's the status of the stellar engineering projects?" Dr. Lim Young, now director of all human weapons research, pulled up a holographic display. "We've successfully moved 17 stars from their original positions. The Rokari cluster now spells out, 'Remember New Busan' in letters of fire. Any ship passing through that region will see it for the next 1,000,000 years. And the gravity weapons? Major Kang Min's team has perfected them. We can now make a planet's gravity fluctuate so wildly that the surface tears itself apart. We tested it on the abandoned Keth colony world of Trezon. The entire planet is now a floating debris field." Fleet Admiral Song Mi walked to the observation deck and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien species that had existed for millions of years were hiding in fear, wondering if today would be the day that human ships found them. She activated the fleet-wide communication system to address all human forces. "Soldiers of humanity," her voice echoed through thousands of ships spread across the galaxy. 3 years ago, the aliens thought we were insects to be stepped on. They murdered our children and laughed at our pain. They told us we were too weak to matter. The bridge crew around her listened in silence. These were people who had lost family and friends to alien weapons, who had sworn oaths of vengeance over the graves of their loved ones. Today, 12 alien species have been driven to extinction. 43 others have fled to distant galaxies. The rest hide in dark corners of space, praying we don't find them. The galaxy that once dismissed us now whispers our name in terror. She paused, thinking about the price they had all paid for this victory. Human soldiers who no longer remembered how to smile. Scientists who dreamed only of new ways to cause suffering. Children growing up thinking that mercy was weakness. We have shown them the cost of underestimating humanity, but we are not finished. There are still aliens who participated in the murder of our people. There are still worlds that celebrated when New Busan burned. We will find them all. The communication system crackled with voices from across the fleet. Yes, Admiral. For New Busan. Death to the aliens! Fleet Admiral Song Mi ended the transmission and turned back to her staff. Colonel Park Jin, I want you to take your special forces to the Meridian sector. Intelligence reports say there's a hidden base where some of the original council members are hiding. What are your orders regarding survivors? There are no survivors. Kill everything that moves. Colonel Park Jin saluted and left to prepare his mission. Fleet Admiral Song Mi knew he would follow orders exactly. The human special forces had become something terrifying over the past 3 years. They no longer captured prisoners or showed mercy. They were weapons pointed at the throat of the galaxy. Captain Han Wu's voice came through the private communication channel. Admiral, we've received a message from the remaining hegemony forces. They want to negotiate. Fleet Admiral Song Mi laughed, but it was not a pleasant sound. Negotiate? Now they want to talk? They're offering complete withdrawal from human space, war reparations, and recognition of human sovereignty over any territory we claim. What do you think, Captain? Han Wu was quiet for a moment. I think it's too late for negotiation. We passed that point when they decided to murder children for sport. My thoughts exactly. Send them our response. Fleet Admiral Song Mi activated the long-range communication system and sent a message to the alien coalition that had once been the mighty Hegemony Alliance. This is Fleet Admiral Song Mi of the Human Stellar Navy. You have offered to negotiate. We decline. You watched our children die and called it justice. You laughed at our pain and called it weakness. You thought genocide was an acceptable response to territorial disputes. She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. Now you will learn what justice really looks like. We do not want your territory. We do not want your resources. We do not want your surrender. We want you gone, all of you. Forever. The message was broadcast across the galaxy, reaching every alien world that still had functioning communication systems. The response was immediate panic. Refugee fleets packed whatever they could carry and fled toward the galaxy's edge, hoping to escape to other star clusters before human forces found them. But the humans were not in a hurry. They had learned patience over 3 years of war. Captain Odell's ghost fleet followed the refugee convoys at a distance, picking off ships one by one. Sometimes they let a few survivors reach their destination, just to spread fear among whatever alien populations they found there. Dr. Choi Ray's psychological weapons had evolved beyond simple memory implants. She had developed viruses that could rewrite alien brain chemistry, making them experience constant terror and despair. Others caused hallucinations where aliens saw their own people as human children, making it impossible for them to function as a society. We're not just winning the war, Dr. Choi Ray reported to Fleet Admiral Song Mi. We're destroying their ability to recover from it. Even if some of them survive, they'll never be the same. The stellar manipulation projects had become even more ambitious. Human engineers redirected entire star clusters to create monuments to their dead. The Cascade Nebula now formed a perfect replica of the New Busan colony symbol, visible from millions of light-years away. Other nebulae spelled out the names of every human who had died in the attacks. Major Kang Min returned from a mission to the Outer Rim with disturbing news. Admiral, we found something at the abandoned Zentari research facility. They were working on biological weapons specifically designed to target human DNA. Fleet Admiral Song Mi felt ice in her veins. Were they planning another attack? It looks like they were preparing for a final solution: complete extermination of our species. The discovery sent shockwaves through the human command structure. The aliens hadn't just been defending territory or maintaining order. They had been planning to wipe out humanity entirely, down to the last man, woman, and child. Fleet Admiral Song Mi called an emergency meeting of all senior commanders. The holographic display showed representatives from across the human fleet, their faces grim with the new knowledge. "You all know what we found," she began. "They weren't just planning to control us or relocate us. They wanted us extinct." Captain Hanwoo spoke first. "This changes everything. We thought we were fighting for justice and revenge. Now we know we were fighting for survival itself." Dr. Park Nari, now ancient but still sharp, nodded slowly. "If we had lost this war, if we had accepted their demands and retreated to Earth, they would have finished the job eventually. Every human who ever lived would have died. So what do we do now?" asked Colonel Park Jin. Fleet Admiral Song Mi looked around at the faces of the people who had transformed from explorers and peacekeepers into the most feared force in the galaxy. "Now we finish what they started. Not just victory, not just revenge, but complete and total elimination of every species that participated in their plan." Dr. Lim Young raised her hand hesitantly. "Admiral, if we do that, we'll be alone in the galaxy. No allies, no trading partners, no other intelligent life. Better alone than extinct." The vote was unanimous. Humanity would not stop until every alien species that had supported the hegemony was gone from the galaxy. The few that had remained neutral or opposed the anti-human actions would be allowed to live, but only in designated areas far from human space. As the meeting ended and the commanders returned to their ships, Fleet Admiral Song Mi remained on the observation deck, looking out at the 5 years had passed since the first massacre at New Busan, and the galaxy was silent. Where once there had been the chatter of 1,000 alien civilizations trading, talking, and building together, now there was only emptiness and the quiet hum of human ships patrolling empty space. Admiral Han Wu, now commander of the entire human space fleet, stood on the bridge of his flagship Final Justice and looked out at what had once been the hegemony capital system. The massive space stations were gone, reduced to floating debris. The planets were dark and lifeless. Even the star itself had been dimmed by human technology, a permanent reminder of what happened to those who threatened humanity. "Status report," he requested. Captain Park Nari, daughter of his old friend Dr. Park Nari, who had died 2 years earlier, checked her instruments. Long-range sensors show no signs of organized alien civilization within 1,000 light-years. The last refugee fleet was eliminated 3 months ago near the Andromeda Gateway. Any signals from the neutral zones? The few species we allowed to survive are staying in their designated areas. They send regular tribute and status reports as required. Admiral Hanwoo nodded. The war was over. Humanity had won so completely that there was no one left to fight. Of the 12 species that had formed the original Hegemony Alliance, 3 had been driven to complete extinction. 4 had fled to other galaxies and would never return. The remaining 5 existed only as small populations in heavily monitored reservations. President Nam Ki's voice came through the communication system from Earth. "Admiral, how are the reconstruction efforts proceeding?" "Slowly, Mr. President. We're rebuilding the destroyed human colonies, but it's hard work. Most of the people who volunteer to live there are veterans who want to stay close to the memorials. The memorials were impressive and terrible. Every human colony that had been destroyed by the aliens had been rebuilt as a monument to the dead. The cities were exactly as they had been, but populated only by holographic recordings of the people who had lived there. Visitors could walk through New Busan and see the children playing in parks that existed only as memories, hear the laughter of families that had been murdered years ago. What about the alien worlds we've claimed? Admiral Hanwoo looked at the star charts showing human expansion. Red markers indicated the thousands of worlds that now belong to humanity, taken from extinct alien civilizations. The colonization program is ahead of schedule. We now control over 60% of known space. Good. The galaxy needs to remember who's in charge. After ending the communication, Admiral Han Wu walked through the corridors of his ship. The walls were covered with memorial plaques listing the names of every human who had died in the alien attacks. There were millions of names, and crew members often stopped to touch the plaques and remember. He found Dr. Lim Young in the weapons laboratory, still working even though the war was over. She was older now, her hair white from years of stress, but her mind was as sharp as ever. "Still developing new weapons?" he asked. "Always. Peace is just the pause between wars, Admiral. Someday Something else might threaten humanity. When that day comes, we'll be ready. Admiral Han Wu looked at the designs on her screens. Weapons that could destroy entire solar systems. Viruses that could rewrite the DNA of any species. Machines that could turn planets inside out. Do you ever wonder if we went too far? Dr. Lim Young stopped working and looked at him. Do you remember the recordings from New Busan? The sounds the children made when they were dying? Every night. Then you know we didn't go far enough. We should have made them suffer more. Admiral Han Wu left the laboratory and went to the observation deck. Through the transparent metal, he could see the memorial nebula that spelled out the names of the dead colonies in letters of fire. The sight was beautiful and horrible at the same time. Commander Yoon Jae joined him at the window. His old friend had aged badly during the war, his face scarred from battles and his eyes haunted by the things he had done. Do you think they were right? Yoon Jae asked quietly. Who?
The aliens.
When they said we were too dangerous to be allowed to spread across the galaxy. Admiral Han Wu considered the question. Maybe, but they chose their method poorly. If they had asked us to limit our expansion, we might have listened. Instead, they chose murder. And now we've become exactly what they feared we were. No, we've become something worse. They stood in silence for a while, watching the memorial flames burn in the darkness. Other human ships moved through the system, their hulls black as the space between stars, their weapons capable of destroying civilizations. The children growing up now, Yoon Jae said, they don't remember the time before the war. To them, this is normal. Humanity as the only major power in the galaxy. Other species as subjects or extinct curiosities. Admiral Han Wu thought about his own daughter, now 12 years old and attending the military academy on Earth. She had never known a galaxy where humans weren't feared and respected. To her generation, the idea that aliens had once looked down on humanity was as strange as the idea that humans had once been unable to fly. Maybe that's for the best, he said. Maybe they'll be stronger than we were, or maybe they'll be less human. A communication alert interrupted their conversation. Captain Park Nari's voice came through the ship's speakers. Admiral, we're receiving a signal from the edge of the galaxy. It's not from any known species. Admiral Han Wu hurried back to the bridge. On the main screen, a translation of the alien message appeared in human text. To the species that calls itself human, we are the Corvani Empire from the galaxy you call Andromeda. We have heard reports of your activities in this region of space. Some of our trading partners fled here with disturbing stories. We wish to establish diplomatic contact and discuss the possibility of peaceful coexistence. The bridge crew looked at Admiral Han Wu, waiting for orders. He thought about the message for a long moment. Here was a new alien civilization, probably unaware of exactly what humanity had become. They still thought in terms of diplomacy and peaceful coexistence. Send a reply, Admiral Han Wu ordered. Tell them they are welcome to send a diplomatic mission, but also send them the complete historical records of what happened to the last aliens who thought they could dictate terms to humanity. Captain Park Nari hesitated. Admiral, those records show everything. The biological weapons, the psychological warfare, the extinction campaigns. If they see what we're capable of, then they'll know exactly what they're dealing with. Better they learn now than make the same mistake as the hegemony. The message was sent, along with terabytes of data showing the complete destruction of galactic civilization, video records of alien worlds burning, audio recordings of species going extinct, technical specifications of weapons that could crack planets in half. The response came 3 days later. It was much shorter than the first message. We understand. The Corvani Empire will maintain peaceful relations with humanity and will not enter your galaxy without explicit permission. We apologize for any disturbance our initial contact may have caused. Admiral Han Wu smiled grimly. At least these aliens were smarter than the hegemony had been. Months passed and life in the human-controlled galaxy settled into a new routine. Colonies expanded across former alien worlds. Trade flowed between human settlements connected by the safest space routes in galactic history. Art and culture flourished in ways that hadn't been possible during the constant threat of alien interference. But it was a cold kind of peace. Human children learned about aliens the way previous generations had learned about extinct dinosaurs, as dangerous creatures that had once existed but were no longer a threat. The few surviving alien species were studied like laboratory specimens, kept alive only to provide information about their homeworlds and technology. Dr. Parknari, now an old woman, often visited the memorial sites. On the anniversary of the New Busan massacre, she stood in the rebuilt central square where holographic children played forever in the afternoon sun of a world that no longer existed. Was it worth it? She asked the empty air. Behind her, a holographic little girl laughed as she chased a holographic butterfly. The real girl had died screaming in agony 5 years ago, her DNA torn apart by alien bioweapons. Now she existed only as light and memory. Playing in a city of ghosts, was it worth it? Dr. Parknari asked again. The holographic girl looked up at her and smiled, then went back to chasing the butterfly. Dr. Parknari walked away from the memorial and back to her ship. In a few hours, she would return to Earth and file her monthly report on the psychological health of the surviving alien populations. It was important work. Humanity needed to understand how broken civilizations behaved, in case they ever encountered more aliens in the future. As her ship lifted off from New Busan, she looked down at the memorial city one last time. The holographic people continued their eternal lives, unaware that their real selves were dead, unaware that their murderers had been hunted down and made to pay a price that echoed across the galaxy. The stars themselves had learned to fear humanity. Space routes that had been traveled for millions of years were now marked as forbidden to non-human ships. Nebulae burned with the names of human colonies, warnings written in fire that would be visible for millennia, and in the dark between,